So in the last tutorial, we developed the phase 1 semantic representation for verse 6, and now I'm going to turn that into phase 2. Phase 2 is what we ultimately need for our program to generate computer translations. So I'm already in TBTA here. I'm already in the analyzer. You can get there through the utilities menu, proposition analysis. Click edit text. Here is this button over to the right and paste that in. One of the reasons I work with Word is I can make the letters bigger so you can see it better. You could just type right into this place where you can edit text here. Okay, so now we're going to click the Analyze button. It's the upper left button in the set of buttons down here. And the computer program will do its best to analyze this text. While we're waiting, let's pray. Lord, help us to do a good job to analyze this properly and let it glorify you. Amen. Okay, so in the phase 1 up here, we see Naaman brought the letter to the king of Israel. So it can be helpful to look at the verb first. So to carry something to someone or someplace, and that is the sense of bring that we want. And we see it's discourse, which is what we want. It's the storytelling. And this sense of bring has so bring has the agent and the letter, and it has an optional destination. So these are all good. See, bring has an obligatory agent, obligatory patient, optional destination. Bring is discourse. So Naaman should be routine. He's been mentioned before. Naaman. The letter. So I could say that letter brought that letter to the king of Israel. I guess I'll do that, but you know, there's only one letter referred to, so it's probably not necessary. Brought that letter to the king of Israel. Okay, so it says Israel the man. So we want to click on senses down there and change it to the northern nation. That's sense D after the split. And instead of region of authority, which refers to the land, I'm going to do replace word. There's a button down here in the bottom right. Click on region of authority and change that to realm of authority. It's item 15. Marks a people group. Okay, so because he's the king over the nation of Israel. Okay. Next sentence says, the letter said. So here, I said that letter. I'm just going to leave this routine. I'm not going to put contextually near because there's only one letter we're talking about. The letter said. Okay, so you notice that it's the wrong sense of say. It's the direct speech. We saw that there was a form of say that would do what we want. So I'm going to click on senses the button under the little white boxes. Click on this Say word. Click on the drop down. And I'm going to choose a book or text says something. That's sense E, the fifth line you see here. So that's pretty close to a letter says something. Say is in discourse, which is fine. That's our normal storytelling sense. And we would associate that in English with the past tense usually. The letter said. And now say should have an obligatory patient and an obligatory patient proposition. So there is a patient type clause. The little brackets are for the subordinate clause. And it begins a quote. So we have quote begin. Okay, so looking at the phase one, it says, I am sending Naaman to you with this letter. Okay, there's another subordinate clause, who is my servant. So, send, let's look at that. To send a person or a thing to do some task. So that's correct because he's sending a person. It's present tense. You might wonder, where did the idea of am sending go? That went into this backgrounded action. If you look over the clause, you see that B? There are a bunch of letters and there's a B. And if you look down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The 12th feature says salient span backgrounded action. So that's what happened to the I am sending. It got marked as a backgrounded action, saying that it's something that's going on at the same time. Okay, so this king, if you click on the first king, it says it's singular, and if you look down, it says person first. So that's how it got I, the king, am sending Naaman. Let's skip this subordinate clause here for the moment. And then we see after that, we see the destination argument to king. And this king, if we look at the features of it, we look down at that features, it's singular, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The 9th feature says person equals second person. So that's to you, the king. Okay, but as I said, if we look at the thing list, there's king as the third item. There are no more kings. So we know this king is a different king. So I am sending this king to you, the king of Israel. I clicked on the 8th line in the thing list, which doesn't have anything. And I'm going to click on this king, which is in the second person. And so now, looking down at the thing list, the 8th thing is king. So we made that a different thing list item, king. And it got this wrong. So I'm sending with instrument with the letter. That we didn't want instrument, we want accompanying. So we've got to change this. It should not have a semantic role. So if we look at the send, it had, oh, now that's strange. It says never an instrument. Well, I don't actually know why the analyzer said that this is an instrument, since the verb send says it never has an instrument. Okay, had a little interruption, but I'm back. So I was talking about how it was strange that there was this instrument um, argument for the verb to send. It doesn't list an instrument. So I'm guessing that if I click Save Analysis, it's going to show there's a problem. See, it says warning, the verse changes the case frame for send. Do you want to update the case frame info? So if I clicked on that, yes, I could add that sentence and it would add an instrument role. I don't know why. I guess it just assumed because we had with that it meant an instrument rule. Anyway, I'm going to say no. I don't want to add that. I want to change this. And I'm going to click on features. Then I'm going to click on the features for this noun phrase letter and change it to not applicable. So the semantic role is in the second column. Click on not applicable. And then I'm going to click on insert word. And when we want to insert something, we put the mouse on the thing we want to insert before. It's going to insert before that. So I click on letter, and now I can type in with and press enter with accompaniment. So that's what I wanted. So I'm going to click on with. Okay, so to the king with this letter. Now, if I hover the mouse over letter, it says routine, which means it's mentioned before, which is correct. Singular, affirmative, yes, it is a letter. And third person. The proximity is contextually near with focus. Now, I'm not sure how Todd would do this, but I'm thinking probably it's best for it to be near the speaker, because when he was writing it, that's when the king is talking about this letter. So now we have the letter says, quote begin, I am sending, it was backgrounded here, Naaman to, and this king says second person to you with this letter. Okay, and instead of just Naaman, it's Naaman, and then there's a restrictive modifier. I think since he's lists the name, we should change that. So I've already got features selected. I'm going to select, click on the features for this subordinate clause. We're going to do descriptive thing modifier. So then it'll be Naaman, comma, who is my servant, because it's listing Naaman with the name, so that specifies who Naaman is. It's not the Naaman who is my servant, it's Naaman, comma, who is my servant. So the difference is that this is descriptive. It's not restricting the kind of Naaman. This is telling about Naaman. So it's a descriptive thing modifier, and now I've changed it to that. Naaman, B, social role. I think that's correct. And that takes a obligatory agent and an obligatory state. Usually the argument after a verb to be or have is a state variable. So servant, frame inferable, that's good. It's the frame and servant of the king. So like my servant. Okay, and king is first person. So that's good, my servant. Okay, that brings us to the next sentence. Naaman has a very bad disease of the skin. Naaman has, present, disease. And remember I told you that usually the verbs have a state argument, and it says obligatory agent, obligatory state. So this is the state, noun phrase now, disease, and it says first mention. So because this is the first time that the other king has heard about this. So and bad is intensified. The adjective phrase is attributive because it's a bad disease. If you say the disease is bad, then bad is used as a predicate of the verb to be. But here it's just a simple modifier in front of the disease, so it's attributive, and it's intensified, very bad disease of the skin. Okay, so genetic generative telling what kind of disease it is, that's fine. And the skin, I'm going to make that frame inferable. Okay. So finally we have the last sentence. It's independent. It's a main clause as indicated by the thick left brackets. Declarative means it's saying something. So the verb is want. This says to desire to do something yourself. John wants to go to class. Aha! So this is interesting. So it got the wrong sense of want because he's wanting the other king to do something. Now you might say, why did the analyzer get that wrong? Didn't it know that inside the subordinate clause it was another king? Well, it didn't. It thought they were the same king. So it thought this was the same one, so it thought it was, I want to do something myself. So we're going to click on senses, and this verb want, down arrow. Okay, and the first one is we want someone else to do something. The second one is to desire to do something yourself. The third is to want something like to possess it. And the fourth is to want something abstract like hope or faith or something like that. Okay, so we should have had that one. And also this indicates that this other king in here in the subordinate clause is the wrong king. At first we had all the king in the thing list was thing list item 3 down in the bottom right in the thing list. We introduced thing list 8 when we referred to the other king here up in this sentence as the destination. I'm sending the letter to you. So let's click on 8 and let's make this second king in the last sentence thing list 8. So that tells it that the two kings are different kings. The first one is first person, and then it says I want someone else to do something, and so in this subordinate clause this one is second person, so it's the one he's talking to, and it's the other king. The verb want has an obligatory patient, that's the king, I the king, and it has an obligatory patient proposition we see in the features in the theta grid or argument structure of want. And so this is a patient complement. King here, as we already said, is second person. To cause, okay, and cause has an obligatory agent and an obligatory patient proposition. So it needs this patient proposition we see here. It says patient, type clause, type patient, object complement, and so he wants the king to cause Naaman to become healthy. Now, I've been talking to you about the attributive adjectives, and this shows the predicative adjective. So he wants Naaman to become, and so that's like be, but become implies it's going to happen as an event in the future. And so the adjective phrase here, if you put the mouse over that, the third feature says predicative, and it says healthy. Okay, so I think we've got it. So let's click on generate. So now the program is applying all these rules. If you look at the program down in the bottom left, you can see all the rules it's going through, and it says the rules and the different kinds of rules, phase structure, it said, pronouns, and all this. And finally it comes out with a translation. Naaman brought that letter to the king of blank. So we have a problem still. The letter said, I'm sending Naaman, who is my servant. So see, it's a descriptive clause. It's not the Naaman that was my servant. It's Naaman, comma, who is my servant, telling about Naaman, to you with this letter. So now we've got the accompaniment coming out right with the letter. Naaman has a very bad skin disease. I want you to cause Naaman to become healthy. And in the English, in the churched adults, it'll come out, I want you to heal Naaman. Okay, so we still have a problem. Naaman brought that letter to the king of, and you could see here that this, there are these question marks under Israel. So I guess we haven't yet associated the nation. We probably used the country, but not the nation. So what I'm going to do, when we clicked on generate, it automatically did save, so we don't need to worry about that. I'm going to click on the second menu item up at the upper left, generator, language and grammar development. And now when you click here, you see there's this generate button up here. Just to the right of the verse reference, 2 Kings 5:6, and it says generate -1. That indicates there's a problem. There's one problem. And the problem is indicated by the magenta here. Now, what I'm doing right now is not really important because the semantic representation is right. And but if you want to see it generated correctly, we need to map this word. So the fact that it has Israel, the top word shows the source concept, the bottom one shows the target word. You can see for Naaman, the first word in this, Naaman in regular type is the source, and underneath that Naaman is the English. And that's in italics, but here there are question marks. So I'm going to do a right click on the question marks, and I'm going to select the first entry, map this concept to target words. So then we want to go down to Israel. Like I said, you don't really have to do this. What we're worried about is the semantic representation, but I'm going to do it anyway. Huh, we have two Israels. I wonder why, okay, I know why now. Okay, so you can see the features next to the Israels. The first one is proper noun masculine. And then standard and countable. So it's for a person. So it knows that it's a person. The second one says proper noun neuter, but for relative clause, it's locative. That means it's a place. Well, nation is not a person or a place. So I wasn't counting on doing this, but I'm going to add a new target sense of Israel. Okay, it says this is already in the lexicon. It's asking us, are we sure we want to add this? Are you entering a homograph that has a different set of forms or feature values? So a homograph is like a homonym. It means a word that sounds the same. And yes, we want to have a different feature. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes, I want to add that. Okay, it's a proper noun. So for the first one, I'm going to switch to proper. It's neuter. This one's standard, not locative. And not really countable or mass is proper here, but we could just leave it as countable. Israel's, so okay, fine. It would like an example here. I wish I could remember what the verse said. That's kind of a pesky problem here. I can switch to the Word document. Naaman brought the letter to the king of Israel. Okay, good. So I could put that in there. When we add a word, and then the gloss is Israel, the northern nation after the split, and I gave it this example. Naaman brought the letter to the king of Israel. Okay, after I added that, you see that up at the top, it now has source stem Israel, and it says mapping 763. So 763, and now I can click OK. Just to show you that you can generate in this screen also, I'm going to click Generate here. I usually do it in the analyzer, and if you do it in the analyzer, it automatically saves. It doesn't automatically do that in this screen. This screen is good for debugging if the generation is not coming out like you want it. Naaman brought that letter to the king of Israel. The letter said, I'm sending Naaman, who is my servant, to you with this letter. Naaman has a very bad skin disease. I want you to cause Naaman to become healthy. Okay, that's exactly what we want. Now, the buttons up here, we clicked on Generate. You see Initialize, Save Verse. So I'm going to click on Save Verse. Now it's saved. And if I go back to the analyzer, Utilities, Proposition Analysis, it now says Naaman brought that letter to the king of Israel. So that was the problem before, that it didn't say king of Israel. Okay, well that's the 6th verse of 2 Kings chapter 5, and we'll stop there for today.